These 5 creepy islands have dark histories behind them and are in some cases extremely haunted. Many of them are considered mysterious, and some have even banned tourists due to dangerous conditions and unwanted spirit visitors. Number 5. Off the coast of Southern California, there lies a mysterious rocky island known as Santa Catalina Island, or simply Catalina. This island is a bit different from some of the others because it's inhabited by a small population of merchants and farmers. However, that doesn't make it any less unsettling. Thanks to the island's past and the alleged spirits that roam the land, it's still extremely terrifying for some visitors and residents. The land was first inhabited by Native Americans who sought to protect their land and live in peace. However, things have changed when a series of Spanish explorers stumbled across the island and claimed it as Spain's. Over the next few centuries, the island was rediscovered several more times by conquerors. In 1919, William Riglet Jr. bought out as many shares of the island as possible and worked to build an infrastructure that included many factories. During World War II, the island was closed off to outsiders and used as a base for American military training and living facilities. It's no surprise that in the many centuries that followed Native American ownership ending, there were countless cases of men passing away on the island. Even during this time, rumors were sparked that blamed a malevolent spirit on the island that sought out revenge for owners having ruined the sacred land. After being transformed to house the military and U.S. maritime residents, the number of spirits allegedly haunting the island grew significantly, thanks to the tragic passing of many soldiers. Natalie Wood, a popular actress, passed away after drowning during a boat trip with her husband, just a few miles from the coast of Catalina. Her passing featured many suspicious details and was never officially declared an accident. Rumors suggest that near the coastline, she can be heard screaming for help in the distance. Today, the island is still inhabited by a small population and has used the location's apparent haunting and confusing past for monetary gain. Tourists are now welcome, and ghost tours are provided by locals. Number 4. In the year 1218, an island in Croatia was taken over by French explorers and was used by the Franciscan monastery, named in the honor of a woman known as Saint Sabina, whose life was taken in 126 AD after she converted to Christianity. The island features old relics of such a time and includes other marvels, such as a gorgeous lighthouse that once served as a safe space for sailors. Aside from the location's already beautiful natural scenery, a costly and elegant villa remains uninhabited on the island. In recent years, Doxa was offered for sale at around $2 million. Even though the island is relatively small, this price was still considered mysteriously low, as if they were desperate to get rid of it. When the news was spread, people started to wonder why such an amazing location seemed to turn buyers away rather than attract them in. A few simple researchers began unraveling Doxa's past. It was discovered that just a few years before the sales pitch, visitors found numerous skeletal remains on the island. This information led to the discovery of a massacre that played out decades before. On October 18, 1944, partisan forces allegedly hunted down a group of people that were suspected of many to be Nazi spies and soldiers. The group of men, who remain unnamed, were bound by the feet and hands before being tossed onto a boat and shipped to Doxa. Once there, they faced their tragic fate at the hands of suspicious invaders. A letter to Dubrovnik explained what happened to the men and also served up a dark threat by warning that any visitors to the island would be taken out. Relatives of the victims insisted for decades that their loved ones were innocent, but there was nothing they could do. When these remains were unearthed, they not only confirmed that the tragedy had taken place, but it also led people to believe that the island is extremely haunted and dangerous. Citizens and historians living in Dubrovnik have long encouraged the idea of a haunting, with countless reports of ghost activity approaching the coast of the island. Apparently, the innocent victims haunt the area with a dark energy as they desire a violent revenge. Number 3. Palmyra Atoll. is an average-sized island due south of the Hawaiian Islands. It's owned by the United States and serves as a member of the Pacific Remote Islands Marine National Monument, which makes up the largest marine protected area in the world. However, it's had no official residents in the last several decades, which is rumored to be a result of the island's dark, confusing past and allegedly haunted status. The island had a quaint beginning when it was discovered by an explorer in 1798. In the 19th and 20th century, Palmyra became the center of a treasure hunt. A treasure on the island was allegedly discovered by the sailors. They loaded their find and set sail back home, but were stopped in their tracks when the vessel hit a storm and failed to carry on. The men that survived were later discovered by pirates, who loaded them in as prisoners and stole their loot. These men faced a similar fate and eventually crashed back onto the island. Some paranormal and supernatural believers suggest that these fates were so similar in nature because of a curse that was in place on the ancient island to protect itself and the treasure. At some point in the early 1900s, the island was occupied as a US naval defense base. This practice caused significant destruction to the island's natural state, essentially ruining most of its natural resources and ecosystem. In 1959, the US gained complete ownership of the island, and it served as a location for various services over the years. In the many years before this happened, though, there were several tragic and mysterious cases of inhabitants losing their lives in some violent way. These few instances were the first stepping stones of the island's allegedly haunted energy. In 1974, Malcolm Mack Graham and his wife Eleanor Muff Graham passed away at the hands of their attackers, who were later caught and charged. There have been a few rare reports of visitors claiming to have heard spirits crying out and rustling around the locals. Palmyra is now protected as a natural reserve, with researchers helping manage the local wildlife and reefs located near the coasts. While there aren't any real residents present, many scientists live on the island during their projects. There are also a few housing and hotel options for visitors that come to witness the miracle of conservation. It's rather obvious, though, that many tourists land on the island in the hopes of experiencing a paranormal encounter. Number 2. This Scottish island is known as the Isles of Skye, and it reportedly has a history of creepy twists and turns that have left the location as a booming tourist destination for those that pursue paranormal research and encounters. Unlike many of these entries, some of the spirits that allegedly haunt this island are friendly and tend to mind their own business. However, there have been reports that suggest two other entities that don't play nice with others due to the conditions of their tragic ends. Isles of Skye has a history that dates back to prehistoric times. The more important note of its history, however, involves the rivalries between Scottish clans or gangs that inhabited the island. Skye has seen its share of disturbing losses, many at the hands of violent enemies. The island is home to Dunvegan Castle, the most haunted location on the island according to investigators. Tourists and visitors that stay on the island and explore its impressive terrain have filed and documented complaints of late-night parties going on at the castle from sundown to sunrise. Of course, these supposed parties didn't actually happen, and such events have been declared as a paranormal activity. These spirits don't seem to bother guests, aside from probably disturbing their sleep. Ghost tours that are offered bring guests to the castle, where they allegedly realize the dancing spirits are friendly. According to an article created by Islands.com, Hugh MacDonald's tortured spirit haunts the dungeon where he starved to death, and a housemaid who accidentally dropped a clan chief's son out of a window still cries in anguish. These spirits have been witnessed firsthand by visitors and employees. Thankfully, this haunted location isn't really considered dangerous for the living, and the island has greatly improved its economy thanks to the novelty of ghost tours and spooky destinations. Number 1. North Brother Island is a mysterious location off the East River in New York City. It has 0 inhabitants, and laws are in place to forbid any public citizens from visiting the relic of the past. North Brother Island housed Riverside Hospital, where in the early 1900s, patients with contagious diseases were isolated and secured under quarantine until they met their inevitable fate. In 1904, a ship called General Slocum gathered a group of religious travelers that were embarking on a journey away from home. The passengers were said to have been mostly women and children. Not long after the vessel began its journey, a fire broke out near the shore of North Brother Island. The fire spread so far and so quickly that there was little anyone could do to save passengers. The vessel sank, with passengers still aboard. Residents and emergency responders on North Brother rushed to the aid of the ship. Those that survived were pulled from the water and given medical treatment. Aside from the thousands of minor and severe injuries, 1,021 people lost their lives during the accident. After this tragedy, reports started to spread about the victims' spirits haunting the coast and causing trouble. Another strange thing that played out on the island involved the typhoid Mary, the first woman to ever contact typhoid fever, without showing symptoms. Sadly, Mary wasn't a fan of washing her hands and would handle food while working with various families in the area without taking proper precautions. Mary infected 53 people, 3 of whom lost their lives to the disease. This is yet another instance of what occurred on the island to make it seem so haunted and absolutely riddled with spirits. In the late 1940s, North Brother was used to house veterans of World War II. In 1952, it was converted into a rehab center. In 1960, it was discovered that nurses and other employees were mistreating their patients and even caused a few of them to pass away prematurely. In 1964, the entire island was shut down. It has remained all this time, but the buildings have started to fall apart and morph from centuries of standing. Although the island has a tragic past and can very likely be severely haunted, it now serves as a bird sanctuary, oddly enough. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like this video, be sure to click that like button. Also, don't forget to subscribe and click that notification bell to keep up to date with all of our future uploads. But I've been Ty Knotts, and I'll catch you guys in the next video.